Hey everyone, welcome back to the Crypto Deep Dive. I'm Laurie.
And I'm Nick. Thanks for joining us for this episode.
This week, we're diving into three huge topics. First, the ripple effects of the new US-China trade deal on global and crypto markets. Second, the swirling rumors around Ripple possibly acquiring Circle. And finally, the big question everyone's asking, is Ripple going to IPO or not?
Three juicy topics and a lot of speculation, facts, and market moves to unpack. But let me guess, before we get going with our jam-packed agenda, you want to take a look at the markets?
You bet I do. Today, Monday, 12th May 2025. Well, we have been through some ups and downs which might just about be related to our first topic of this episode. So, Bitcoin stands at $102,621 US. Ethereum is sitting at about $2,486. XRP is at 2.5361. Nice. We've got XLM at about 31.5 cents, Sol is at around $172.8, and ADA is trading at just under 82 cents.
There is definitely a lot of green on the screen. A lot of the assets did go up today, some came back down a little again in the second half of the trading day, but I would say that overall we had one of the better days in crypto. I wonder why that is.
And we shall clarify that. Let's jump right into it. Nick, can you break down this new US-China trade deal? What just happened?
Absolutely. So the US and China have finally signed a short-term trade agreement that includes a temporary 90-day tariff reduction. The US is cutting tariffs on Chinese imports from 145% down to 30%, and China's lowering tariffs on US goods from 125% to just 10%.
That's a huge drop. Why now?
Well, it's really a move to de-escalate growing economic tensions between the two countries. There's been ongoing uncertainty and a lot of pressure on global markets. This agreement isn't a long-term fix, but it's designed to calm investors and stabilize trade flow in the short term.
And the financial markets reacted pretty quickly?
Oh, definitely. Stock indices like the S&P 500 and Hang Seng saw immediate gains. We're talking investor optimism across the board. On the flip side, gold dipped around 2.5%, which signals that money is flowing out of safe havens and back into riskier assets.
What about crypto? I saw some big green candles.
Exactly. Bitcoin surged past 105,000, its highest in months. Ethereum and Dogecoin also rallied. And here's a key metric. The Crypto Fear and Greed Index jumped to 70, which is firmly in greed territory. That suggests strong bullish sentiment returning to the space.
Is that just a knee-jerk reaction, or does this deal have real long-term implications for crypto?
Great question. Short term, it's mostly investor sentiment, but long term, it's nuanced. Here are a few angles. There's regulatory climate. If this thaw in US-China relations leads to more cooperation, we might see softer stances on crypto regulation in both countries. Then we have liquidity and adoption. Lower trade barriers could pave the way for institutional investment into digital assets. And don't forget CBDCs and stablecoins. This deal could influence how both nations develop their own digital currencies. The US and China both want to maintain financial sovereignty, and crypto could be part of that strategy.
Interesting. Do you think China could soften its stance on mining or trading?
Possibly. China has been notoriously anti-crypto, especially after cracking down on mining, but they're heavily invested in the digital yuan. And if global trade opens up, they might reevaluate their policy, especially if the US starts embracing crypto more aggressively.
So the deal's not just about goods anymore, it's about digital assets too?
Exactly. This is about financial infrastructure as much as it is about physical trade.
All right, next up, a spicy one. Rumors are flying that Ripple might acquire Circle, the company behind USDC. What's going on here?
Yeah, this came out of nowhere and blew up fast. Initial reports suggested that Ripple offered $5 billion for Circle. Then things escalated when some sources claimed the bid jumped to $20 billion.
Wait, $20 billion? That's massive.
Exactly, and frankly pretty implausible. For context, Circle's pre-IPO valuation is around $5 billion. A $20 billion offer would be 4 times that, and analysts have widely dismissed that number as exaggerated.
Where did the $20 billion rumor even come from?
Part of it stems from confusion around the $60 billion in reserves backing USDC. But here's the thing, those reserves belong to the users, not Circle itself. That money isn't an asset you acquire when you buy the company.
Got it. So if there's an offer, what's a realistic number?
Industry consensus puts it in the 6 to 6.5 billion range, assuming a typical acquisition premium. That's still a big deal, but it makes a lot more sense.
So let's play the what-if game. If Ripple does buy Circle, what does that mean strategically?
It could be huge. Ripple has just launched its own stablecoin, Ripple USD or RLUSD. Buying Circle would instantly make them a major player in the stablecoin wars. It also aligns with Ripple's focus on cross-border payments, where USDC is already well established.
What about regulation? Wouldn't a merger like that be a legal minefield?
Oh, 100%. Any such deal would face intense regulatory scrutiny, especially given how sensitive the US is about dollar-backed stablecoins. Both Ripple and Circle would need to navigate serious compliance hurdles.
How did the market react to all this?
Interestingly, not much. XRP and USDC prices remained stable even as the rumors circulated, and the XRP community actually pushed back against the $20 billion number, calling it FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Is it true that Coinbase might get involved too?
There's speculation that Coinbase, which owns a minority stake in Circle, might enter a bidding war if Ripple makes a serious offer. That would complicate things even further.
So we'll be watching this space very closely.
For sure, whether or not the deal happens, it's a sign of how aggressively Ripple is positioning itself in the stablecoin space.
All right, last topic. Nick, the million XRP question. Is Ripple going public?
Ripple's been flirting with an IPO for years. CEO Brad Garlinghouse has said they'd consider it once there's regulatory clarity, especially in the US. And with their recent court victories, we might be getting closer.
Why would Ripple want to IPO? What's the upside?
A public offering could bring transparency, legitimacy, and institutional interest. It could also help Ripple expand globally, sign more partnerships, and potentially boost mainstream adoption of XRP.
But here's the twist. Does Ripple actually need the cash?
That's the ironic part. Ripple is one of the few companies in crypto that's not cash-strapped. They control around 36.5 billion XRP in escrow, which they release at about 1 billion XRP per month. That's more than enough to fund operations and expansion.
So they're not like your typical startup needing IPO funds to survive?
Exactly. Their on-demand liquidity, also called ODL platform and enterprise solutions, are already profitable. An IPO for Ripple would be more about branding and legitimacy than fundraising.
But going public does come with risks, right?
Big ones. First, shareholder control. Once you go public, your strategic moves can be second-guessed. Second, regulatory scrutiny increases dramatically. And third, Ripple's valuation could become tied to XRP's price, which is famously volatile.
What are the alternatives if they don't IPO?
A few options. Expand through private fundraising, which they've done before. Consider a direct listing like Coinbase did, which avoids raising new capital. Or just keep leveraging their XRP reserves for acquisitions, partnerships, and ecosystem development.
What's the community saying about all this?
Mixed feelings. Some XRP holders worry that an IPO could mean more centralization or a shift in Ripple's mission. Others think it could be the legitimacy boost the space needs. And notably, SBI Holdings, a major Ripple partner, has hinted they're waiting for an IPO to properly value Ripple's XRP escrow assets.
So IPO or not, Ripple's at a crossroads?
Absolutely. Whether it's through a public offering or continued private expansion, Ripple's next move could define its place in the crypto economy.
All right, that's a wrap on episode 7 of the Crypto Deep Dive. We covered tariffs, takeover rumors, and IPO speculation, all in one jam-packed session.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember, crypto moves fast, but deep dives keep you informed.
Make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And hey, leave us a comment if you learned something new today.
We'll be back in the next episode with more insights from the ever-evolving world of crypto. Until then, keep diving deep.